Hi everybody, I'm here in a city, don't know which one, but it looks kinda cool. It kinda looks like Blade Runner though. Now recently I've been thinking about the future a bit. How are we gonna evolve, both in technology and in evolution? Hopefully not like this. I've infected the world for, at this point, 3 different decades, and I still don't know why Teletubbies is even remotely relevant. I watched so much of this show for this rambling discussion, and I have yet to comprehend this. I still don't even know what I'm looking at. The premise is simple, the execution is simple. It's simple-minded content for a simple-minded audience. This feels alien, this feels wrong. I feel like I'm watching the Fluglies from Spy Kids. I feel like some poor souls are being punished and were transformed into these dumpy, soft, fat, jiggly organisms with incompetently inefficient brain processing. I look at these creatures and I'm horrified of what context we're missing, because when there's limited knowledge, our imaginations run wild and conduct truly horrifying amalgamations in its stead. There are 4 primary Teletubbies: Tinky Winky, Dipsy, Lala, and Po. They sound like a team of scientists gave them the same names they would give farm animals they experiment on, with intentionally ugly names so they could characterize them and not feel bad when they meet a demise. Right out the gate, I have so many questions. Where are they? Why do they live in a lab? Why are there speakers coming out of the ground? Is this windmill magic? What's the point of this? Why are there rabbits and only rabbits around as the only other living creatures? Why is this the only common known Earth life we see here? I'm already confused and I don't understand! The average Teletubby episode opens about as you would expect. First we got the intro, and then a short portion of the episode goes to them mumbling and bumbling around for a bit. They're oblivious to things like aging and famine. Instead, these corpulent fools frolic around and struggle to produce any coherent string of words. And then we take a dip into the daily affairs of the Teletubbies. Here's what their average daily routine looks like to give an idea of what we're dealing with. There's nothing. They behave like docile Neanderthals, primitive creatures who want nothing more than to satisfy their limited requirements for existence. Please consider Maslow's hierarchy of needs and consider where the Teletubbies lay. They are provided a consistently protective environment, reside on a fallout shelter, and love nothing more than to consume mountains upon mountains of tubby custard and tubby toast. This explains why their BMIs are higher than room temperature in Fahrenheit. Then we have the safety and security level. I hesitantly say that they can comprehend this area. They all possess a single item and toy that they play with. For example, Dipsy has a cowskin hat. Where did Dipsy get a cowskin hat? In addition, their social capabilities are very limited. Their resumes are lackluster at best, so I would say employment is out of the question. And then I look at the rest of the hierarchy, and I genuinely think they cannot physically or mentally comprehend the remaining tiers. I look at this jumbled nonsense, and I wonder how they got to this point, not to mention the baby sun. A creature I look back in at horror. Does this mean that there's a new sun? Is it a sun that's closer to the Tubbies? Do they look like this because they were exposed to the bountiful baby UV rays? I digress. There's also chances of these interaction scenes having new show up, this being a sentient robot vacuum and pal of the Tubbies. At one point of the episode, one of the Tubbies will start radiating from their receiving antenna, and out comes a broadcast of a feeble, normal-looking family going through their day-to-day activities. It'll be stuff like playing with a dog or cooking. It makes no sense to me, hardly correlates with whatever's being talked about, and this goes on for about 5 minutes usually. And then sometimes unprompted, we will have to witness all of them say in unison, again, and this makes the broadcaster telepathically feel the urge to play the exact same footage a second time. It's baffling. Over half of the episode can be dedicated to the Teletubbies watching a day at the beach or something, and nothing is done about it. We just have to watch it. We have to watch it a second time. Now, I can't even watch this as someone comprehending the story here. This is just at a critical scale embarrassing to watch. Could you imagine hating Teletubbies, having to sit through it because of a younger cousin or something, and you gotta watch the least interesting part on loop? If I'm subjecting my eyes to physical torment already, I'd rather look at Tinky Winky, damn it! And then they go and do like one more brain-numbingly slow scene. After this, they go and say bye-bye, and then the sun is satisfied, and it goes to rest only to return the following morning, where the Teletubbies have to appease this mighty entity of fear. This has hundreds of episodes. Oh, here's the fun part. This is the classic run. There's so much more, and it's as bothersome as it is upsetting. It took a while before an actual continuation occurred. Over a decade, in fact. Because of this, I'm going to assume that this was real world time. I say this because a lot changes between the modern and classic franchise. And also, I would like to believe that Tinky Winky aged phenomenally, or he has a dastardly makeup kit in his iconic red purse. We also got this animated version that feels like the most bright, annoying, saturated colors possible were slammed into a wall and to make this abhorrent creation. There's a song or two in each episode and the sun just looks like an animoji. This isn't even Teletubbies in a liminal or uncanny sense, this is just annoying. Also, the sun changes faces. There are multiple of these suns when it's animated. What's confusing here is that the modern live action and animated version are all allegedly the same Teletubbies. There's not like alternate continuities or anything. These are all the same quartet of jiggly giants. And it's from this modern iteration that my concern lies. I've already established that this in specific horrifies me from uncertain confirmations, but it is this one concept that bothers me above all others horrifyingly. So the new Teletubbies is relatively the same. The industrial nuclear shelter they live in is a bit different, a bit more furnished. It looks less like Jimmy Neutron's underground lab and more like an elementary school library. And this isn't without justification, because it is here that we're exposed to the Teletubbies. The Teletubbies are, simply put, baby Teletubbies. They share the same level of intelligence as the adults were accustomed to, but they seem to lack the ability to follow what the narrator commands, so instead they just do whatever the hell their little baby minds can comprehend. The primary difference is, with the Teletubbies I want to drop kick them across a football field, the Teletubbies I can. With all due respect, I don't like the idea of these creatures coming to life or reproducing in any sort. These are test tube babies from this point forward, and I will gouge my eyes out if we even consider any other possibility. The thing with Teletubbies is that they're adjacent to humans, like chimps, except that with primates, the less evolved or intelligent ones are reliant on the aggressive side of functionality. Whereas I genuinely believe that the Teletubbies are incapable of recognizing danger or fight or flight. I would not trust Lala with babies, even the babies are them but again. Here's something even crazier, they got their own spin-off show from this, the Teletubbies show. What else were you gonna call it? Like obviously it's gonna be called that, but we got all 8 of them here. We got Ping, Dada, Ba, Nin, Mimi, Ruru, Duggledy, and of course, Pumpy. Truly a collection of names to echo across the ages and generations and through the iPads of small children. This show is just the Teletubbies being silly and playing while their caretakers are dicking around above the mainland. The Teletubbies are only known to sleep and play. They do it at random and are seen doing it a majority of the time. When the regulars show up and watch, only one of them gets to play with whatever Tiddlies are awake. They instantly pay attention, but otherwise it's interesting to note that they're equally as creative as dim. They even got their own little new, all in exchange of never getting the opportunity to see the sun. That's probably a good thing though. Have you seen it? The aspect that lingers upon me is entirely accidental, but it's essential. This is gonna sound a bit wacky, but babies aren't very good at walking. To counteract this, they use all 4 limbs when applicable, and when you look at the feet of the Teletubbies, you'll see that there's like a foot claw thing inside their shoe equivalent. Now this sounds kind of ridiculous in this situation, but consider the fact that these are not creatures that we're exposed to in the real world. Any sort of anatomy or biological stipulations we can figure out are incredibly useful. So because of this, I'll be taking it as confirmation that all 12 of the Teletubby species we witness are wearing onesies. This also means that the antenna and the television itself are most likely extensions of their onesie suits. As with some of the screens in specific, if they were connected to the skin, there would be like visible skin sticking out at some points of that stomach gap. What I'm taking all of this as is the implication that there is something greater going on. The fact that there is so many things indicating that there's a greater party inspecting and restraining the Teletubbies at this level, they don't know how to take care of themselves and suffer from a limited vocabulary, and they smell like overworn pajamas. The fact they've proved with everything necessary to mildly educate them and keep the creatures alive tells me that somebody else is involved, and all the signs indicate that it has something to do with the narrator, that soft-spoken British man who describes what the Teletubbies are doing, except the Tubs aren't listening to him. They're following through on what he narrates. They're literally doing exactly what he says and describes. They are mimicking what he wants. It might be a single guy or a team of them, but doesn't matter. This has to be some sort of experiment or life produced in a lab or something. That's why they look like malformed humans. They're exposed to the simplified human creature because even though Tinky Winky and Po don't look like they're capable of ripping out someone's spine like an aggravated silverback gorilla, they probably can, and we should be ready for it. The speakers exist as a way to command them. Perhaps instead of the evolved primates, these are the humans attempting to recreate life via the rabbit DNA. That's why so many of them exist. It could justify their abnormal ears and facial structure and their non-hostile demeanors. It truly makes too much sense to explain. I mean, consider. For everyone else's safety, they provide the Tubbies with a limited space and resources that are harmless and easily documented as such. This restricted environment is a necessity to protect the subjects and all of their antics. That's why they have stupid names. That's why they look like test tube creatures, because they were done like that. A scientist slammed his hands into a keyboard and went, yeah, these are good names. And again, I don't want to think about a pregnant Teletubby, and I don't want to think about the idea of a Teletubby coming out of an egg, or worse. All of the events of the Teletubbies are them looking into how well they can actually comprehend and articulate the greater world around them. They exist not because they should, but because somebody wondered if they could. This has to be some sort of human existence or input. Because of all the automation and the existence of Nunu, maybe it was their attempt at restarting life after a nuclear aftermath. These being humans who survived and rapidly mutated, with the TV stuff teaching them what they can and cannot do if they want to replicate the actual probably real world people, probably, maybe, possibly. And as for the sun, I genuinely don't know. This baby sun could be entirely faked, as if the greater sky is a simulated dome. The sun's expressions being a sort of way for the Teletubbies to facially recognize the right and wrong. A sort of fear-mongering, if you will. Happy baby sun means the Tubbies are doing something good. They're horrified of acting out of line to see what the malicious sun, the upset sun, would be like. But why? Why are they even here to exist? What is the intent? What is the purpose? Literally, the only incentive I could think of is the Teletubbies could be here is maybe to work in mundane labor. It's inhumane, but could you think of one reason why a group would create the Teletubbies to serve purpose in our greater collective society? There is none. They're conditioned for the minimum for a humiliating purpose, if any. For some reason, I can't help but compare this situation to the cult classic work of literature, I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. This is a good read, a short computer game, and a powerful warning between the link of humanity and machinery. Maybe even something like The Matrix, a reality that's planned well in advance only to have a worthless purpose, in part because a larger uninterested party wants nothing more than to do with you what it can. It makes you think if the Teletubbies are the example or if they're the same as us. Where does the line cut off? Is this the falsehood waiting to be revealed? Are all these things existing as a warning? And are we using it as mockery in this case? We lazily recreate Poe shooting Mickey Mouse on TikTok and then turn them into monsters as a way to hide their potential drastic reality laying across our lifetimes. Is this real? Is any of this real? Are you real? Am I gonna get put to sleep if I act too far out of order? Is something gonna show up and stop me in my tracks when I uncover something that I'm not supposed to? What happens then? What do I do? What do I respond? How do I know when something is gonna show up in order to do something like... Well, that was weird. Anyway, what was I talking about?